Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today I'm going to be sharing 3 quick and easy weeknight meals. Up first is a glazed pork tenderloin. This recipe is super quick and easy. It only requires a few ingredients, so I love that. To begin with, I'm going to make the rub for the pork, which is salt, cinnamon, cumin, chili powder, and black pepper. I will have the recipe that I used linked in the description box below. Keep in mind that for this recipe I did double the amount of everything because the amount of pork tenderloin I had was double that of the recipe. So you just need to adjust based off of the amount of pork that you have. I did make a little bit of a change to the original recipe. It calls for just stirring together your rub ingredients, putting it on your pork, and searing it, but I decided to marinate it. So I added my pork tenderloin into a Ziploc bag with a little bit of olive oil, and then added in the seasonings, sealed it, stirred everything together, and then put it in the refrigerator for a few hours. Marinating the pork is completely optional, but I do recommend doing it because it gave this such amazing flavor. The last thing that you need to prepare is the glaze that will go over the pork tenderloin before you put it in the oven, and that is just some fresh garlic, brown sugar, and sriracha. So about 45 minutes before I was going to sear the pork tenderloin, I did remove it from the refrigerator so it could start coming to room temperature. This just allows it to cook more evenly. And you do want to add it into a skillet on high heat with a little bit of oil and brown it on all 4 sides. You can see I struggle a little bit when I'm trying to do it on the thinner sides, but once you prop it up a little bit with your tongs and it starts to cook, it will stay. So just make sure that you do all of the sides. Once your pork tenderloin is brown on all sides, you're going to remove it and put it into an oven-safe dish. I put mine in a 13 by 9 inch pan and then top it with the glazed ingredients. This is going to go into a 350-degree oven until it is cooked to temperature, which is 145 with a meat thermometer. And then I just sliced it and served it over some white rice, and make sure that you drizzle all of that good sauce that's in the bottom of your pan on top. Up next is date night rigatoni. Now the title of this dish is Date Night Rigatoni, but I think you can make this any night of the week, and I definitely think it's a great dish if you have company coming over because it's super simple but full of flavor. You're going to begin by sauteing a diced onion in a little bit of olive oil, and you want to cook that down until the onion starts to soften and brown. So I did put a note down below in the description box with the link to this recipe. I did omit a couple of ingredients, one of which was fennel and the other one was fennel seed. If you're using fennel, you want to cook it in when you're doing your onions, but since I didn't do that, I let the onions cook down and then added in 1 pound of Italian sausage. And then I'm just using my mix and chop again. If you guys have seen my past videos, you know that I love this tool. It just makes it so quick and simple to break up any ground beef, or in this case, Italian sausage. Once your sausage has browned, you're going to add in some garlic. Again, I say measure with your heart, but if you want to follow the recipe, I think they called for about 4 cloves of minced garlic. You're going to let that cook for a minute and then add in your tomato paste. And then for the tomato paste, you want to stir that around and let it cook until it's fragrant. I actually did go to culinary school when I was 18, and I had a professor that said that you want to cook your tomato paste until it smells like pizza. And that's always stuck out in my mind because it's definitely true. Once you get that kind of pizza smell, you know that it's ready for the next ingredients. So once your mixture smells like pizza, you're going to add in either white wine or chicken broth to deglaze your pan, and then your chopped kale, and then you're going to finish it with some heavy cream and season to taste with salt and pepper. A little trick that I love with the kale is to chop it very finely. Once it wilts down, you can't even tell that it's there, so if you have kids or somebody in your household that isn't a big fan, I definitely recommend making sure that you chop it really small. Once your sauce reduces down a little bit, you're going to add it into your cooked rigatoni, and make sure that you reserve a couple of cups of the pasta water because we are going to utilize it in a little bit. For pasta dishes like this where I'm cooking the noodles in with the sauce, I do cook it just a little bit short of al dente, that way it can finish cooking in the sauce. And here you can see I added in some of that pasta water. I started out with about a cup, and you can adjust as you go. You just want to cook this over like medium heat until that sauce reduces down and your noodles continue to cook fully. Now you can see the sauce is thickened, so I'm going to finish the dish with some Parmesan cheese and a little bit of chili flakes. Now you don't have to use the chili flakes if you don't want to. I'm not a big fan of spice, so I just do a little bit, and it adds a nice flavor but not too much heat. I serve this with a couple of breadsticks. I think it'd be great with a side salad as well. And the last dish is a crock-pot Tuscan chicken. So for this dish, you're going to start out by sauteing some garlic and a little bit of olive oil. And again, we're measuring with our heart here. So I think I used about like 6-7 cloves. The recipe, I think itself actually calls for 6 cloves, so I wasn't too far off. But you just want to saute that, and then you're going to add in a little bit of chicken broth and then some heavy cream. And then you're going to whisk all of that together and let that cream reduce down. And then once it has, we're going to add some Parmesan cheese and whisk it. And this is going to be the sauce that's going to go over our chicken breast in the crock pot. So this is pretty much an Alfredo sauce. I definitely recommend doing this step and doing it homemade because it has just such a great flavor, and it really is quick and simple to do. So while the sauce was reducing down, I went ahead and added my chicken breast into the bottom of my crock pot, and I'm just going to season it with salt, pepper. I did a little bit of onion powder, Italian seasoning, and crushed red pepper flakes. Again, you can adjust the seasoning to your taste. So if you don't want the heat, you don't have to add the red pepper flakes. But just like the last recipe, I just added a little bit just to add a little bit of flavor without too much spice. The original recipe, which again will be linked down below, used chicken thighs. So if that's what you have on hand, or if that's what you prefer, you can use the chicken thighs. I just prefer chicken breast, so that's what I'm going to use here. Once you've seasoned the chicken, you're going to add in some sun-dried tomatoes. Now a little tip here, they do come in a jar with oil, so you do want to pat them dry so that way that oil doesn't break up your sauce. And then once you have those on, you're going to top it with your cream sauce and then cover and set to low or high depending on your needs. I did cook mine on low for about 5 hours. At the end of the cooking time, I went ahead and prepared my kale, and this I decided to use instead of spinach like the original recipe called for because I had this kale left over from the rigatoni that I had cooked earlier in the week. So that's just a little tip. Just because a recipe calls for a specific ingredient does not mean that that's what you have to use. You can use whatever you have on hand. So the kale is really easy. You just want to pull it off of the main stem because that's very woody. I just put it into a ball and then ran my knife through it. Again, getting that really fine chop because it just wilts into the dish. And for those people in your family that don't like kale, they're not even going to know that's what it is. And here's the chicken when it's finished cooking, and oh my goodness, how good does that look? Now you just want to shred it apart, and as you can see, it shreds apart so easily. This chicken is so tender. I cannot recommend this recipe enough. So once I'm done shredding it, I'm going to add the kale in and let that start to wilt down. I did decide to serve this over some bow tie pasta, so I do have that cooking on the stove while I was finishing this part of the recipe. And I did end up adding in about a cup of the pasta water into the chicken because I wanted it to have a little bit more of a sauce to go over the pasta. And here it is, all plated up. I just topped it with a little bit additional Parmesan cheese. I really hope that you guys enjoy all of these recipes. Please let me know in the comments down below if you do, and please don't forget to hit subscribe before you go.